Ivy wraps her vines around the Yamato series of statues. Here's your look at the Batman Wave 2 Poison Ivy. The Batman Wave 2 original series action figures not only features the Cape Crusader and the Boy Wonder, but a who's who of Rogues Gallery characters, such as Poison Ivy, the Penguin, the Riddler, Joker, and even Harley Quinn. The very first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall Poison Ivy stands. What I am doing is I'm pretty much going to include everything that you see here, because the figure really isn't going to stand on her own anyways. Going to the very top of the tallest leaf, which seems about right there. There we go. According to the readout, you're looking at the vinyl figure of Poison Ivy, which I really don't really want to consider these figures. The packaging touts them as being original series action figures, but there's nothing really action about them. They're pretty much pre-posed staction figurines. I digress. Anyways, according to the readout, you're looking at the figure of Poison Ivy standing 7.1 inches in height. In centimeters, that works out to be 18.2 centimeters tall. Just recently picked this up over on eBay. However, it is not new. These have been around for a very long time. The secret fascination I've had with the Yamato smaller series Batman figurines, I really wanted to start kind of getting into the collection. And what better place to start the collection than with Poison Ivy, which I personally feel could be the best of the lot. This particular pose of Pamela Isley is really definitely cool. And I'd be very, very excited to pick up more of these. There is some assembly that's required, and through the assembly of it, there's a lot of frustration that goes along with it. The first thing we'll do is we'll take the bottle. I'm thinking this is a bottle. There's no instructions. There's nothing inside the packaging, but it looks like a little bottle, a vial, if you will. So I would just keep it in your hands. I mean, you could really just leave it off if you if you really wanted to. It's the bottom section of it is all red, and then you've got a little cap on the top. I thought initially getting it out that it was a flower, and then I quickly reminded myself that flowers don't tend to look so cubic. So again, I feel like it's a little bottle, a little vial of something. Don't lose that. Don't lose that, whatever you do. Oh, it's lost. No, it's not. It's right over there. Then, like I said, there is a whole lot of assembly that's required. We're going to take Poison Ivy off her base for a second. We'll just lay her down. We're going to kind of start our way and Quentin Tarantino our way back to where we started from. One of the biggest problems with this particular base, and I can't imagine it's across the board on all the figures because not all of them have dioramas like this, but there's some assembly that's required, and I gotta say this is like one of the worst bases I have ever experienced in my years of collecting. It's hollow, which is okay, but the problem is they've used a really, really soft material for it. And when you are attaching things to it, nothing really stays together. I took the longest amount of time, it seemed, to attach the backdrop here to the base, and I had to keep forcing the plugs in. None of the plugs you'll also find fit any of the things that are supposed to attach in place, with perhaps the exception being the Venus Flytraps. These I really, again, had to force in. I think they're going to stay in place. I might very well glue these. Glue has already been used for this figure, so just FYI. Then also assembly has to be required, as you have to take the Venus Flytraps. I don't think there's a specific place that you have to, I mean, you could fit, in theory, them in both ways, although this one doesn't really sit well, so obviously you want to put the big one here. But it looks like the holes could accommodate either one of these. This one just sits a little bit better on that side. The Venus Flytraps are actually quite decent. Digging the color that they ended up going with. The light two-toned purple against the backdrop of the darker purple, that gives us two tones purple, is really a nice touch. You don't tend to see a lot of plants bearing this sort of color combination. Also quite vicious are the fact that they have these teeth, both on the top and the bottom sections of their mouth, and it does appear that they also have tongues. That's pretty cool. The base is somewhat unoriginal. There's nothing really like exciting about the base. I'm trying to think, it actually looks a bit like clay. I would imagine it's just supposed to be dirt, but the coloring they chose is really off-putting. I guess it's supposed to work with the color scheme of Poison Ivy, that it allows the figure to pop against it, but I'm really not digging the color, I have to be honest about it. The back section of Shrubbery has various different colors of leaves, 3 colors of greens, and as you can see, as you get to the foreground, it's slightly lighter. The leaves to the furthest back get quite a little bit darker there as well. My biggest nitpick, like I said, is the base. I don't know if you can see it or not. The base is very, very soft. And then also for you to have a hollow bottom, which really, Poison Ivy is the hardest thing to put in place. Well, that's not 100% true. She's one of 2 things that is difficult to put on this. The back, and then Poison Ivy. And then there's some problems with the vines. Boy, you're painting such a lovely picture, reviewer. Anyways, we'll put the base right there. Despite the shortcomings of what I had to deal with putting everything together, I am still very happy with this particular figure. The other assembly that is required is you get these vines. They are loose out of the packaging, and again, there's no instructions whatsoever, so you just kind of have to gauge whereabouts everything kind of goes. I wrapped one of the vines, and again, like it's a soft plastic, so I mean, you could really wrap these anywhere you want. Nothing's necessarily telling you that it has to go there, but as you probably can see, as you're moving stuff, vines just sort of detach from one another. There's a couple of places on here where the vines are separate. I mean, they attach there, they attach here, and a couple of places up at the top there as well. My process of thinking for this is, why would they even have these removable in the first place? I guess it's the idea that you could change the configuration of the vines, but at the end of the day, these are always so difficult to put back in place. They never really stay the way you would want them to stay. That I did resort, and I'm not afraid to admit it, I resorted to gluing one of them. And judging by how much this one is giving me a bit of the issue, I might very well find myself gluing this one as well. Needless to say, I wrapped it all the way around her leg. And then if you spin the figure around, it goes up like this, and then it branches off. This was the other section I glued right here. I just finally gave up. I just couldn't do it anymore. Oh wait, no, it was this part right here. But that could be a potential other area of gluing. Wrapped it around her arms, wrapped it around both arms, here and here, giving us this look right here. Now, ideally, you could leave it off completely if you wanted to. Nothing's to say you have to specifically have Poison Ivy wrapped in vines, but it just felt right, Brian. It just felt right. Let's move this out of the way. We don't want to talk about that just yet. Having a look at her face, now keeping in mind, this is a small figure. I mean, here's my thumb. No, I don't have a thumb the size of a baseball bat, so you can kind of gauge what a thumb size is. It's fairly a small head, and yet the detailing on this is actually quite good. The camera actually doesn't put it off the way that physically seeing it in hand puts it off, but there's a lot more lining around her one eye than on this side here. Although in the camera it's actually not as bad as it looks in person. The coloring of Poison Ivy is rather pale, as it should really be for a character like Pamela. The face is somewhat anime in the sense that you have really large eyes, very narrow jawline, and you've got the peaked eyebrows happening there as well. Again, I really, really like this particular statue. I've been eyeing this one for a while. And the price of the Yamato pieces, if you want to get something small like these ones, on average, they're about $35 to $40. Ouchie, yells somebody from the back of the crowd. Yes, $40 could be a bit high, but keeping in mind this as well as is an import. So again, when these were originally circulated years ago, I want to say that these were in the early 2010s that a lot of these circulated. I guess you could probably find these a lot in comic book stores. Since stores have exhausted, I'm sure, the supplies of having them carried, you probably will have to go to places like I went to, and places like eBay would probably be your best bet right now. But overall, I'm really, really happy with the face sculpt. For its size, how small this is, it pulls off a really effective Poison Ivy, potentially one of my favorite sculpts I have in my collection currently. She does have her leafed dress, a bodice of leaf shrubbery, if you will, and then she has her leggings going down to her elf-like boots. This is one of my biggest frustrations with this piece. And though there really isn't a whole lot of reviews on these kicking around, I searched myself and really couldn't find a whole bunch of these anyways. I think I found 1 or 2 reviewers that actually covered this particular piece. and they share the exact same frustration that I'm about to tell you guys right now. So sit down, kidlins. Let me spin you a yarn. It's not going to be a very long yarn. Essentially, Poison Ivy's base has a hole right here and has a peg right here. And then on her feet, she has one large peg, and then she's got a hole. Now, I did try to Dremel out. I just actually took my knife and just kind of made the opening a lot bigger because the hole was way too small. It didn't even make any effort to try to fit against that peg. Well, needless to say that it does fit on the peg, but as you can probably guess it, because the base is already really soft plastic, it doesn't give you a whole lot of extra, like when you're pushing down on it, you literally see the base is just giving way to the strength of this very strong reviewer. I mean, there's nothing holding it in place, and what ends up resulting is what a Poison Ivy that should be standing upright, ultimately you'll probably have her falling back against the back section right there. I really don't want to be the person that uses glue for everything, but at the end of the day, I really do want the Poison Ivy to stand straight out and have a gap between her back and the backdrop of this leaf, these, you know, groupings of leaves. So what I might end up just doing is gluing it. I know people against the cause of glue will probably just cry out and foul the fact that I would resort to using glue, but I think I might ultimately just do that. At the end of the day, this is the statue I wanted, this is the look that I wanted, and clearly Poison Ivy isn't going to stand on her own. Or is she? Well, not quite. So I'll probably have to use the option of glue. The fix could have been easily the fact that if they used just a plastic bottom. If they had made this just as dense of a plastic as this is, then I don't think I would have as much the problem of pegging Poison Ivy into her provided holes and provided peg on the one side. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm probably just going to ultimately use glue. Just call it a day. I don't want to have the fuss and the muss of trying to always adjust Poison Ivy, who just continues to fall back. If you can get her in a good place in life and in the way of the statue, boy oh boy, she's a nice looking piece. She has a lot of problems though putting her together, and I can't imagine it's across the board with every single one of these Yamato pieces. Not all of them, as far as I know, even have display bases, so Poison Ivy really does benefit from the fact that she has all this extra stuff happening around her. I mean, really, she is a gorgeous looking piece. This would be something that even if they kept the pose the way that it is, and Yamato had simply just re-released this piece in a much taller scale, this would be an ultimate looking Poison Ivy. I think the pose really has sold me the most. The face sculpt is quite good, and overall I like the base, just short of the fact that the bottom is really crappy. It's really, really crappy. It's really crappy. It's surprising how very few people have actually reviewed this line on YouTube. I sourced this out. I've been really eyeing this piece for the longest of times, many of the Yamato pieces as a whole, but Poison Ivy specifically was the one I really wanted to start this collecting with. And the next logical step that I did, which is probably the next logical step that a lot of you viewers also do, is you look for reviews that you can find where people talk about the positives, the negatives of the piece, and to maybe further assist whether you want to actually buy the piece for yourself or if you want to pass completely. And sure enough, I didn't really find very many people having a look at Poison Ivy. I might have found one or two, and they said basically the exact same thing I said. The issue is the base. The Poison Ivy doesn't stay in place at all, as you can even see here in final looks. She falls back. She's resting against the backdrop, and that's no good. For a base and a figure that looks this good, I certainly want to have her standing upright, so I'm probably going to bite the bullet. Not literally, but I'm going to get a little bit of glue going, and I think I'm going to just glue her in place and call it a day. The vines can also be a bit problematic, as you probably saw just a glimpse of that in this review. The fact that they can detach from one another really doesn't solve the problem of trying to get them wrapped around Isley in the first place. If you're going to be wrapping them around her, the last thing you want to do is have those pieces of vine coming away from one another. Yeah, probably going to glue that one as well. Hashtag probably going to glue a whole lot of stuff on here, which ultimately still results in a surprisingly good Poison Ivy. whatever nitpicks I had was more so to the construction of the actual figure. I don't even really want to call it an action figure. It's far be it from me to be calling this an action figure when there's really no action happening. I guess she's in an action pose, but she certainly doesn't have any posability to speak of. Despite what nitpicks I have mentioned in the course of this review, all the nitpicks really stem from the way everything is constructed. Even like the backdrop I'm looking at right now is coming away from the base. Yeah, I'm going to probably have to glue that one as well. Did you manage to pick up this one for yourself? Let me know down below in the comment section. This isn't a new piece. This one has been circulating the interweb stores for the longest of times. If you can luck out and find one at your local comic book store, then good on you. If you are a fan of Poison Ivy and you haven't picked up this one already, I would definitely pick it up. Just know that you're going to be dealing with a whole lot of frustrations, and you're going to probably be uttering the words, yeah, I'm going to glue that. Oh yeah, I'm going to glue that. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm going to glue that one as well. I'm going to glue that piece. Either way, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Yamato Toys Batman Wave 2, the Poison Ivy. Probably not going to be the last of the Yamato pieces I'm going to be picking up. On average, they're about a $30 to $40 price point, depending on which one that you're looking to pick up for yourself. Poison Ivy, I think, set me back about $35. That's not too bad for really what this piece actually is. Let me know down below in the comment section if you managed to pick up this one for yourself and what you think of it. If you are new to this channel, or you're a longtime viewer, you're procrastinating, and let's hope that procrastination stops at the end of 2019. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And even though this is an older piece, there's definitely going to be a whole lot of reviews coming your way where we're going to be having a look at some old stuff, some new stuff, some fun stuff. Hopefully fun stuff. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.